One point that makes me really skeptical here is as you're watching this clip, you can see a lot of the same NPCs are standing around in the same spot throughout that entire day. Digital Foundry just posted a Black Space Engine tech preview for the upcoming game Crimson Desert. Now I want to take a skeptical look because I've watched the video and there's a few things that I wanted to point out, some positive and some things that I think warrant some skepticism. Now, to start things off, the specs they used for this preview are on the screen here. And they're definitely pretty solid specs. Now, the great thing to see is with these specs, they are actually targeting ultra settings with ray tracing on, but they are going for 4K native resolution. Now, in this video, they mentioned that they are mainly around that 60 frame per second mark, but they aren't fully there in all instances. Sometimes it dips a little below that. But it's great to hear because if you wanted to turn on some sort of upscaling, whether it's FSR or DLSS, you'll definitely be well over 60 frames at all times. Now, I wanted to quickly take a look at this shot here because I think it is really awesome and amazing how they're able to capture these huge vistas, and you can see all the trees in the background. I'll slow the video down here and actually moving, which they do mention later in this video, but they say that it seems like, and to me it looks like this too, all the trees and all the vegetation has a very high draw distance, where it's actually in the game and it's not just an LOD or like a mesh texture, but it actually seems like it's a physical object that's being rendered that far away, which for the specs of being 60 frames 4K native is really fantastic to see this kind of thing, let alone the whole world is actually ray traced as well. Now, I wanted to take a look at this rain shot here as well in the dark because I think this looks fantastic. This game seems like nighttime is going to be really, really dark, and especially in the rain, I think it looks really good with the little lighting that is around, the torches, the little flame spires. You can really see the light reflecting off the wet surfaces really nicely, and I think this creates an amazing atmosphere. And I'm super excited to see like lightning and all that kind of stuff at night. And then you'll see the world light up for, that split second with all that rain coming down everywhere. I think it's going to look really, really good. Now, here they show off the lighting of how it affects indoor spaces when it comes to different times of the day with the ray tracing technology. Now, I do want to remind you that this is a engine tech preview, so it's not necessarily showing off any gameplay features, and I'm not really sure how early this has been captured. One point that makes me really skeptical here is as you're watching this clip, you can see a lot of the same NPCs are standing around in the same spot throughout that entire day. Now, I don't know if they did this specifically for the tech engine preview, and maybe, in the real game, in the real world, they'll be moving around a lot more dynamically. I'm not expecting each NPC to have their own schedule, like say, a Red Dead Redemption 2 where they're going to work and then they're coming home, they're having some leisure time. I'm not necessarily expecting that, but I do want to point out that it seems like a lot of these NPCs are just standing around in the same spot, switching between just a few animations throughout the entire day. That can also be seen in this shot here, where a similar thing is in effect. You can notice actually that all the NPCs that are sat at the table are sat there for the entire day, and there's only a few NPCs that throughout the day actually walk throughout this little arch area, which, granted, it looks fantastic with all the ray tracing and lighting, but maybe that's part of the reason why they're able to really get that frame rate. I'm assuming this game is going to be really CPU bound, so if they made all the NPCs in the world have schedules and move around, that would definitely cause a lot of issues trying to hit a specific target, because that game will be really CPU bound. You saw this in the games like Dragon Dogma 2, where with all that pawn system and all the AI going on in the world, that game was incredibly CPU bound, and it was proven so that when you were out in the world, for me, in my personal experience, I believe hovering around that 80-90 frames, and then as soon as I got into a big city, I was tanking down to like 40, even 30 frames in certain areas. So I'm sure they try to figure out a way to get around that. Now, something that I find insane in this is actually the water physics. Like, if you look at these water physics, they look amazing. I don't think I've ever really seen a game do water physics in the way that they're doing. In Digital Foundry, they did an amazing job of explaining how it actually seems to work and how other games do it and fake it in a way, but here it actually seems like the water is physically reacting to all the objects that it's hitting, all the rocks, you know, you see those boats in the background, all the shorelines, it is reacting to very dynamically. And that is something, you know, that might not affect your gameplay a lot necessarily, but it's definitely something that's really visually nice to look at, especially when you consider that one of the big activities you can do in the game is fishing. And rumors have, I'll just say that there could possibly be sailing, which I don't know, I would be surprised, but you know, there's so many things in this game that I wasn't expecting there to be that are. So if there is sailing, I would be surprised, but wouldn't be surprised at the same time. But it would definitely be an exciting thing to see. Now, I wanted to go back to this view of the entire world here, and I love how it shifts into nighttime here. I love how Skybox looks at night, especially with, you know, the sunset just behind that mountain range, and it looks fantastic. And it's definitely something I'm super excited to dive into and really experience the atmosphere of this world and doing all the possible activities that you're able to do. There wasn't a ton of gameplay elements that we were able to see, but there was a lot of tech demonstration shown off here for this engine, and I do think it is really impressive. The main point of concern for me was the whole NPC thing, where I hope it doesn't feel too stale when you go into towns and cities. You know, they did say they have multiple towns, villages, cities. And my concern is that if you go in there and all the NPCs are just standing around, it might feel a little bit immersion breaking in the fact that the world doesn't feel alive. You know, all these things can happen around you, but none of the NPCs would necessarily be reacting. Now, one point that I think might contradict this a little bit, back to one of the deep dives they do, I'll show it on screen here. You can actually see that there is a wanted system, and if you commit a crime in the city, those NPCs can actually come charging at you and start attacking you, trying to either kill you or capture you to put you to jail. Now, to me, this looks like all the NPCs are actually able to move around and are just not stagnant in the actual place that they're in. Going back to the shot of in the building or out in that little archway area, this could just have been placed there for the demo, so that maybe there's more NPCs there rather than throughout the day, or maybe at night the NPCs would leave and they didn't feel like showing off a place where there was no life going on at all. And it's really hard to say, but I guess we will see in the coming weeks. You know, we're only about 3 weeks away now from the launch of the game, so we're inching closer and closer every day. And I'm super excited, and I definitely recommend checking this video by Digital Foundry if you want to go into more nitty-gritty details about the specific engine and its technical abilities. I'll leave that link down in the description below if you did want to check it out. And if you like this, comment, like, subscribe, and I would definitely love to hear your guys' thoughts about what you're most excited for and what you are skeptical about.